What if the next security challenge for India doesn't come from the West, but from the East? In recent days, statements coming out of Bangladesh have raised serious concerns in New Delhi. Protest slogans, political rhetoric, and street-level hostility are no longer just about domestic unrest, they increasingly point toward India, and specifically, the Northeast. This is not about one speech or one protest. It is about a pattern. Anti-India chants on the streets of Dhaka, calls to boycott India, and for the first time in years, open talk about targeting India's so-called Seven Sisters. What makes this moment dangerous is not just what is being said, but what is being tolerated. And when mobs attempted to breach the Indian High Commission in Dhaka, a diplomatic red line was crossed. So the question India faces today is simple, but serious: is this just noise, or the beginning of a larger strategic problem? India has consistently tried to act as a responsible and stable neighbor in South Asia. But history shows that goodwill is not always reciprocated. In recent months, Bangladesh has entered a troubling phase. What began as political instability following the removal of Sheikh Hasina has gradually evolved into open hostility toward India, on the streets, on social media, and alarmingly, in political rhetoric. Radical groups are now openly talking about breaking India apart, specifically targeting the Northeast, the so-called Seven Sisters. These statements are no longer fringe noise. They are being amplified by political figures and tolerated by those in power. The situation crossed a serious diplomatic red line when mobs attempted to breach the Indian High Commission in Dhaka. Under international law, an embassy is sovereign territory. An attack on it is not a protest, it is a hostile act.
Let's begin with the High Commissioner who has been summoned regarding the safety of the Indian High Commission in Dhaka.
Since the coup, Bangladesh's internal direction has sharply shifted. Radical Islamist elements that helped destabilize the previous government now operate with confidence, and, critics argue, with political protection. One such trend is the open call for a so-called Greater Bangladesh, a concept that includes parts of India's northeast. These ideas echo dangerous historical precedents that the region has already paid a heavy price for. At the same time, street violence in Bangladesh has escalated. Hindu neighborhoods have been attacked, temples vandalized, and civilians lynched in the name of protest. What is striking is not just the violence, but the silence. The interim leadership under Muhammad Yunus has repeatedly downplayed or denied these attacks, even as evidence circulates globally. Meanwhile, organizations with a long history of extremism have seen restrictions lifted. Calls for cross-border jihad are once again being heard, this time openly. India now faces a difficult but unavoidable question: how should it respond? Military intervention may seem emotionally justified to many. India's embassy has been attacked. Minorities are under threat. But geopolitics is really that simple. A direct conflict could trap India in a multi-front crisis involving Pakistan, China, and global power politics. India must act, but with strategy, not impulse. Firm, calibrated pressure, diplomatic isolation of extremists, economic leverage, internal security enforcement. History has shown one consistent lesson in the subcontinent: when India's sovereignty is challenged, the response may be delayed, but it is never absent. The question now is not whether India should respond, but how decisively and how intelligently. What steps should India take in the short term and long term to address the situation in Bangladesh? Share your thoughts in the comments.